I like snow. If it snows, I like to throw snowballs, go sledding, battle with icicles, play soccer in it. Things you can only do during winter. But it's cold and you get wet, so shoveling the snow is tough. I also like a game called Dive that you can only play once it has snowed to a certain level. When the snow falls in the small path between the house and the carport, then you can climb onto the roof. And then you can jump to the ground. It's fun to dive into the snow. The other day, I did this year's first dive. I made sure the snow was hard and solid before I climbed. And then, once I was on the roof, I jumped without hesitation. Bang! There was a strange sensation near my stomach. Looking down, a light brown stick was poking into my stomach. It was probably a brace being used in the garden. I was so surprised, and it hurt so bad, that I froze in fear. But I did my best and screamed for help. I remember my mother looking pale as she ran to help me, and then I passed out. Apparently, I was taken to the hospital in an ambulance. That's why I was hospitalized. The doctor said that, miraculously, it didn't hit any organs or large blood vessels, but if I had been 1 centimeter further, I would have died. I'm not going to go diving anymore. Matching pair. There was a woman who was wearing clothes that I very much liked. I think she was a little older than me. The air she gave off was that of a store clerk or maybe a university student. I think she lived nearby, and I often saw her on my way to the station. I looked forward to seeing her because I thought I could learn how to style myself from her example. She often wore tops and used accessories I'd seen before, so I thought to myself that she must like the same brands as me, and we'd likely get along. I saw a combo that I thought looked great, and I was sure I had it at home, so I looked for it to try it out, but it was nowhere to be found. I lose interest in things quickly, often throw out clothes I don't wear, and then buy new things, so I was annoyed that I probably threw it out. But then I realized something strange. The necklace that woman was wearing the day before, that was a custom design that I had ordered. Was she going through my trash? I had an older sister 7 years older than me, who was physically quite weak. She died when we were children, though. That was almost half a century ago now. Our family were landowners and thus quite wealthy. We had a garden to be proud of and all sorts of colourful flowers in it. During the warmer seasons, they were a sight to behold. Maybe they were there for my sister, who was stuck lying ill in bed. She loved flowers. When she was feeling especially good, she even walked to the nearby park to look at the flowers. I wasn't very interested in them, but it made my sister happy, so I joined her. Kei-chan, did you know that the nectar from the lily of the valley is delicious and sweet? I wasn't interested in flowers, but I did like sweet things. I immediately snuck into the flower bed and went to grab one of the lily of the valley flowers. But my sister stopped me. We didn't own this park, so We couldn't just take something from it without permission. Several months passed after that, and my sister's health got even worse. And then she passed away. She was sent off surrounded by her favourite white lilies. One day, I was walking through the forest when I suddenly saw a flower that looked like a white bell. It was a lily of the valley. Memories of my sister came flooding back, making me both sad and nostalgic, so I picked it. The nectar should be around the base of the stem. I put it in my mouth, and it was so indescribably foul that I spat it back out. She said it was sweet and delicious. I returned home, finding it strange. On the way, I could feel my blood pumping and hear my heart beating in my ears. My head started to hurt, and then I felt like throwing up. Fighting the urge, I collapsed once I got home, and for the next 3 days and 3 nights, I had a fever and continued vomiting, and I was on the verge of death. But miraculously, I was okay, perhaps because I took measures so quickly. Having narrowly escaped death, my mother said something to me. "Your sister must have saved you." Every time I remember those words, I feel a little strange. It wasn't until later that I heard that lily of the valley are poisonous. The roots, the stem, the leaves, the flower, even the pollen. Did my sister know that they were poisonous? Or did she just hate me that much? There's no way for me to know now. His daughter Ma-chan got off the bus under the guidance of her teacher. "Papa-san, hello! Today we played tag at the farm and also fed the rabbits." "Huh, is that so, Ma-chan? How was your trip to the farm?" "It was fun, and I have a souvenir for you." "Eh? What is it?" Her teacher also seemed interested in what she had, and smiled as she watched her. Ma-chan took several things out of her bulging pocket and then thrust her fists at her father. With both hands out, she then opened them. Something dirty and round fell from them. "They're beans!" They were small, round, black, and smelly. No, that was no doubt rabbit poo. And both the pockets in her pants were packed full of it. "Yeah!" Both her teacher and father screamed. Six months had passed since I opened a nail salon in one of my rooms at home. But there was one thing that bothered me. It wasn't business going well or anything like that. I was making decent side cash from the mothers who came back for repeated visits because they could easily bring their children with them. So it wasn't a problem with money, but something strange that happened. Although the house had been renovated, it was still old. Doors opened by themselves, and I could hear footsteps on the empty second floor. Yet I paid no attention to these things because I simply thought the house was old. My husband and son weren't home during the day, so I spent most of that time alone, and I was too scared to be suspicious of strange things. But then, a recent customer said something strange. "Hey, where's that woman with the long hair? Where did she go? I have short hair." I get along well with my mother, so I often go shopping with her and we talk a lot. Huh? No, I don't have a mother complex. When we went for a drive on Sunday, we visited a famous udon restaurant in the mountains, then dropped by a nearby station street, etc. But before deciding to go home, and on the way back, I saw a rental video store I often used to visit. These days, you can watch all sorts of things through streaming, but I got nostalgic for all the DVDs I used to rent when I was a kid. I asked my mother if we could stop by there. The name had changed, and the exterior had gotten more fancy too, so I could certainly feel the passing of time. It's gotta be hard running a rental store these days, huh? But I was oddly moved that they were still in business. When I opened the door, there was a pile of bikini model DVDs right at the entrance, and, wondering why they were there, I passed through the next automatic door. My mother tried to enter the building behind me. Sorry, we don't allow minors in here," the staff member said, stopping me. I looked around, and then suddenly realized this was an adult shop. We'd tried to enter this store as mother and son. Looking back on it now, it still makes me tremble and feel awkward around my mother. I think it was snowing heavily that day. It was that day where it snowed all day, a record of 122 centimetres. It was on the news, right? How the trains stopped, the roads were packed, and they asked people not to leave their houses unless it was urgent. Schools were closed for the day, so I felt really lucky. But shoveling the snow was hard work. I shoveled and shoveled, moving it to the yard, but then when I started elsewhere, it just piled up again, never ending, and I got sick of it. To the point where I thought going to school would have been better. And that day, my frozen mandarins disappeared. I often threw mandarins into the yard from the window to freeze them. They weren't as crunchy as the frozen ones we got for school lunch, but they were still cold and delicious. I threw them randomly from the window, so going out to find them was fun, like a treasure hunt. Sometimes I wasn't able to find them until spring, when the snow melted, and they were pretty gross. But I didn't think much of it, just that I wasn't able to find them in time. But when this happened day after day after day, naturally, it started to feel a bit odd. But still, this strangeness was also fun. And intrigued, I continued throwing mandarins out the window. We had lots of them in a cardboard box after all. Then, when it was spring, something appeared in the yard. An old woman with dementia from the next town over who'd gone missing. My dad found her. Strangely, next to her, they found lots of peeled mandarin skins. This happened when an infectious disease quickly spread through the retirement home I worked at. We couldn't have the same people care for the residents who were positive and the residents who were negative. So we were divided up, and I was in charge of the sick patients. Although I had to look after them in protective clothing, gloves, a face mask, etc., so that I wasn't infected as well. The clothes were joined at the middle and airtight, so they were extremely hot. My clothes were drenched in sweat when I took them off, and if I didn't drink enough, I'd start to get headaches from dehydration. But the hardest part of all was going to the toilet. If we didn't keep drinking, then we'd dehydrate. So, when we went to the agreed spot, got undressed, washed our hands, put on the protective clothing, cared for the patients, and then drink again. The toilet was nearby, but getting undressed, washing our hands, and then going to the toilet honestly was rough. I saw hell when one of the residents called me to take them to the toilet. "I'm done," they said, so I helped them with their pants and moved them to the wheelchair. And as we were about to move, they said, "I need to go again." I helped them with their trousers and again they said, "This time I'm done." So again I helped them get dressed. And again, they said they weren't actually done yet. And this went on another 5 or 6 times. This took so much time that my bladder screamed. When they finally said, "I'm okay now," I rushed to the dressing area as fast as I could walk. So as not to cause an unhappy accident, I carefully but quickly got undressed and washed my hands. Then I ran straight for the toilet without drying my hands. Oh no, I'm gonna wet myself. I couldn't hold it in any longer. It took everything I had to hold it in. At this rate, it would be social death. If I wet myself at work, it would be all over. They wouldn't say it to my face, but they definitely talk about it behind my back. I didn't want that. Not at all. "Come on, bladder. You can do this." Cheering myself on, I rushed over. It was right there, but it seemed so far away. Finally, I flung the door open, pulled my pants down, then sat on the toilet. I made it. Or so I thought, but it seemed I didn't pull my underwear down. They died. I threw them into the trash and left the toilet pretending like nothing happened. I worked that day without underwear. Nobody noticed. That's what I want to believe. Do you like cherry blossoms? I love them. I always find myself drawn to them. They're a devilish existence. It happened when I was an apprentice. The boss had worked me hard that day, and I was exhausted. He made me polish all the utensils until they were shining like new, over and over again. For us sushi chefs, our tools are our lives. It was late night by the time I was finally able to go home. Our restaurant was near a park famous for its cherry blossoms, so I often passed through it. It was dark and quiet, so it was a little scary, but passing through the park was the quickest way home. It was after 2 a.m. Cherry blossom trees lined the path. There were some street lights along the way, but it was still dark. There wasn't anyone in front of or behind me, so it was terribly quiet. Suddenly, I heard a noise behind me, like something falling over, so I turned around. A dark figure was hanging from a tree branch, swaying in the air. As it moved, the tree branch creaked. Someone was hanging. I rushed over to help, but then I realized something. It didn't look that way because it was dark and far from the lights, the thing hanging from the branch actually was pitch black and in the shape of a person. Panicking, I ran home. Apparently, several people had taken their lives in that park before. It was famous around town for it. It's strange how these sorts of things often happen around cherry blossom trees. People often say that beautiful flowers are because there's a dead body buried beneath the tree, but I think it's actually the other way around. The beautiful flowers enchant people, and then they die. The dead bodies aren't beneath them. They're above.